so happy to be with you today. I am a mother of 2 young children, and I come from a family of teachers. I am also a part of a team at NYU that includes researchers, psychologists, social workers, and educators. I'm going to start with some key takeaways from the science of early childhood about adversity, school readiness, and parenting. And then I'll talk about family engagement as an opportunity. I'm going to spend a bit of time on how we define family engagement and parent involvement and why definitions matter. And finally, I will share how my colleagues and I are translating this science into solutions for children and families, including a family-centered enhancement to pre-K that we've developed and have been testing in partnership with families and educators in the New York City Department of Education for the past 15 years. Focusing first on the right side, on that rainbow-colored pie, these are the domains of child development. Supporting each domain is what's meant by a whole child approach. And it's now widely accepted that school readiness means all of these things. The social, emotional, and behavioral regulation skills are sometimes called non-academic or non-cognitive skills. We call them foundational skills. These skills are foundational for learning, for success in school, for health and well-being throughout life. And as you may know, the science of early childhood is based on strong evidence from many different fields, education, psychology, economics, neuroscience, that experiencing these kinds of challenges, the adversity shown here, especially in early childhood, can profoundly affect children's development in every domain. Adversity affects us by literally getting under our skin and in the brain through our body's physiological stress response. This is especially true for young children whose brains are rapidly developing, when the capacity to regulate attention, feelings, and behavior is just emerging. But nurturing interactions with parents, teachers, and other caregivers in safe and predictable environments buffer children from the impact of that stress, quite literally helping children calm down, regulate their bodies, return to baseline after a stressful experience, time and again. Children who are at the greatest risk for poorest outcomes in learning, behavior, and health are the ones who experience a pileup, one adverse experience after another. The burden becomes more than any child could be expected to overcome, and the skills that you need to deal with adversity are executive functioning and self-regulation, focusing on attention, planning, delaying gratification, being able to solve problems, work in teams, recognize and manage your feelings. The problem is that adversity can make it very difficult for children to consolidate these emerging skills, in part by taking away opportunities for children to practice. Learning simply cannot happen after stress reaches a certain level. When children have difficulty regulating, parenting and teaching are also much more difficult, and children often end up missing even more opportunities to practice and learn these skills. But when children are in the context of nurturing interactions with caregivers in safe and predictable environments, these skills do develop. This figure is another way of visualizing the same thing. There's a clear pathway through the middle of the figure from adversity to children's developing capacity to self-regulate. And the quality of caregiving clearly matters. Of course, there's also a direct path from adversity to caregiving. Living in poverty makes parenting harder, and it's already plenty hard. Based on the compelling evidence for each of these pathways, scientists and economists advocate for investing to alleviate the burden of adversity early in children's lives. The orange arrow is where we focus our interventions. Based on this science of early childhood, and with careful listening to understand the challenges of raising and educating children in low-income neighborhoods, our purpose is to support parents and teachers in promoting children's self-regulation in spite of what may be happening around them, to build adult capacity to protect children from the onslaught of adversity instead of giving information or advice. So we think of family engagement as an opportunity to connect with families, to lend some support to parents in the awesome and daunting responsibility of raising children. When we talk about family engagement, we're referring simply to efforts by teachers and administrators to engage families. This means building strong relationships based on mutual respect and trust, connections with and among families and community, promoting two-way communication between program staff and families in a culturally and linguistically responsive manner, and strengthening families' capacity to support their children's learning. Oops. Skipping around on me just a little bit there. We define parent involvement as the flip side, the many, many ways that parents support children's learning and development. Often, as researchers and practitioners, we focus on involvement inside the school building and participation in activities that are explicitly related to academic learning. Do parents show up at school events? Are parents initiating and maintaining contact about children's progress? Are parents responding to notes and materials sent home? Sorry about that. Taking a broader view of what it means to be ready for school, it's clear that there are many ways that parents are involved in supporting children's development and learning at home, enjoying books together, setting high expectations for success in school, and providing opportunities for learning out in the community. This also means promoting health and development by meeting basic needs for sleep and good food, clothing, and shelter, promoting social and emotional behavioral regulation skills by creating safe, nurturing, and predictable environments. This is, of course, parenting. And there's a strong research base that both home and school-based involvement make important contributions to children's development and learning. Together, both types of involvement promote academic achievement and better outcomes as kids move up in school. Early involvement sets the foundation for sustained involvement and children's success. Research also shows that there are two types of factors that influence family engagement: past experiences on the left side and current experiences on the right side. You're probably noticing that the weight is on the left side. Before families enter schools for the first time, many factors are already at play that influence their level of involvement and how they may respond to teachers' engagement efforts. These pre-existing factors include economic struggles, negative experiences related to race, ethnicity, and immigrant status, families' own educational experiences at school, and beliefs and knowledge about child development and what it means for a parent versus a teacher to take the lead in children's education. All of this is shaped by cultural beliefs and values. In professional development sessions with teachers and pre-K leaders, we acknowledge that there's often very little that we can do to change the left side of the scale and shift the focus to the right side where we do have some influence. We can change families' current experiences when they walk into the school and the classroom. I want to say a bit more about how we consider race and culture with respect to family engagement, recognizing that race is present on both the left and the right sides of the scale. In terms of past and ongoing experiences of discrimination outside the school building and the ways in which this may affect relationships and interactions between families and educators. Fewer than 20% of teachers in the United States are racial and ethnic minorities, and the student population is now majority minority. This means that most teachers are not familiar with the community norms of their students. Negative stereotypes of low-income parents and parents of color are persistent in our society, in our research offices, and in our school buildings. The opportunities for listening and connecting, sharing different perspectives are quite limited. There's typically very little time during preschool orientations or parent-teacher conferences for building relationships. Given these systemic challenges and the intensity surrounding race and racism in our society, we join others in advocating for researchers and practitioners to engage in deep work to increase racial consciousness. For me, as a white researcher, this has meant being able to talk about race and figuring out how to think about where race shows up in my research and ongoing work with families and educators. This can include reflecting on and addressing implicit biases that shape our assumptions of parent uninvolvement and expectations of child underperformance. One practice is to challenge our assumptions by seeking out counter-narratives, perspectives from parents and marginalized groups. This is a quote from a qualitative study which invited parents to write letters to their children's teachers. Importantly, parents chose if they would actually share the letters afterwards or not. Don't assume that low income means low intelligence or low caring. I raise my children to the best of my ability. I am a hardworking Black female. I don't sell drugs or walk the streets. Please don't put me in a box. I am well educated. Okay, now I'm going to shift to a whirlwind tour of some of the ways in which we're translating this science into solutions for children and families. And I'll start by talking about Parent Core. Parent Core is a family-centered intervention that places culture at the center. Our goal is to reduce racial and ethnic and socioeconomic disparities in children's health and development. There are multiple components to Parent Core to make it strong enough to mitigate the impact of adversity. It's a universal enhancement to pre-K to maximize reach and acceptability. It's embedded in schools and community-based centers and facilitated by school staff. It's timed with the transition to school so that parents are especially open and motivated to help children do well. And it's group-based, building social capital and creating a core of parents. Parent Core includes 3 components for educators, families, and students. The program for families is 14 weeks, 2 hours a week, scheduled flexibly based on families' availability, and it's facilitated by a social worker or guidance counselor who works in that building or in the district. You can just glance quickly to get a sense of the topics. These are evidence-based parenting practices to support social, emotional, and behavioral regulation skills. And you can see on the right some of the tools and materials that families get throughout the course of the program to help try out new practices at home. This is a glimpse of some of our parent outreach materials to give a spirit of the idea of really creating a unique opportunity for families to come together, to share ideas and learn from each other. The Parent Core program for pre-K students is also 14 weeks. It's about an hour a week in the classroom. It includes a variety of components, including free play, exercise, the use of self-regulation strategies, and social-emotional learning lessons and activities. These are a few examples of what the kids are learning. And this Parent Core theory of change is, at a glance, what we're trying to accomplish here. The intervention components are shown in blue and purple. Those components together aim to help parents and teachers create safe, nurturing, and predictable environments at home and at school, and to support strong relationships and communication with families, which ultimately leads to improved child outcomes in the orange box with self-regulation and academic skills, and also ultimately mental health and academic achievement. The dotted arrows in the middle illustrate the synergy between the intervention components. For example, parents who feel welcome in the school building are probably more likely to come to the Parent Core program in the first place. And parents who have positive experiences in the program may be more likely to speak up and engage in children's schooling in a variety of other ways, like expressing concerns to teachers, sharing when circumstances at home may affect children's performance at school, responding openly to suggestions from teachers. Okay, I would talk a bit more about the evidence base if I had time. The program has been evaluated in 2 randomized controlled trials in New York City, and it works as intended with impact on all of these domains. We've followed kids up to 2nd grade at this point and have studies ongoing to follow progress into middle school. And these last few slides, I'll just click through quickly to show that we are going to scale now in New York City in partnership with the Department of Education, both in terms of the Parent Core intervention and also distilling evidence-based practices and tools. We've had the opportunity in that context to think about the New York City version of the Great Schools Framework, which comes from work in Chicago, and defining explicitly that high-quality pre-K includes family engagement, as I described above. And we've been creating these tools that have gone out to every family in New York City and every pre-K program to really start to create a shared language for how families and teachers might talk about these important emerging social and emotional skills. Thanks so much.